I'm Greg Johnston, CEO of Carl Data Solutions, an industrial Internet of Things company that provides big data solutions for monitoring critical infrastructure. Carl Data offers machine learning and predictive analytics features through our cloud-based applications to deliver key asset-saving operational insights from massive amounts of data. Carl Data trades on the CSE, symbol CRL, and the Pink, symbol CDTAF. For more details on Carl Data, please visit carlsolutions.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, Communications Director for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. Best of the season, Jordan. Hope Santa was generous.
Yeah, we had a great Christmas. I've got 3 kids. The youngest is 7, so he was really into it. So it was a good Christmas, and I received an appropriate amount of Green Bay Packer merchandise, so I'm a happy camper.
Sorry about the playoffs.
Well, it happens from time to time, but hopefully we get a low draft pick so we can pick up a decent defensive player. And
hopefully the quarterback stays healthy for next year.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to bubble wrap him all off season, but he'll be ready. You know he'll play. He'll play.
Best of luck to Mr. Rogers and his family.
Yeah, for sure.
Jordan, looking back at 2017, was this a good year for the BC Association of Contractors and Businesses?
Well, it was a year with some mixed results. Obviously ICBA were big supporters of the BC Liberal government, the infrastructure plans that they had laid out. So, seeing the election results was a disappointment. But, even more so, having a minority government was a disappointment. We're finding it very difficult to, understand what, who's in control of the agenda, what goals and visions they're articulating. It just really seems to all be dependent on the whims of the Green Party. So yeah, even though we're not the world's biggest NDP fans, we'd certainly prefer a majority government to a minority. They're just easier to deal with.
Yes, a lot of people like coalition governments because everybody gets a little piece of the pie, but perhaps a little piece of the pie isn't enough for anyone.
No, exactly. I mean, the truth is the pie grows in minority government. So what happens is that you end up trying to buy off these special interests, because you're trying to keep people in power or keep yourself in power. So you give the opposition what they want. History has shown us in other minority government situations around the world that, spending goes up, debt goes up, taxes go up. It's not actually a very good thing. So these are the kind of debates that we're going to have, especially around proportional representation, which in BC's context would basically doom us to perpetual minority governments.
When you say that taxes go up, are we still competitive with the U.S. with their new tax regime?
No, not at all. The U.S. is kicking our butts. And this is probably the most underreported story. And, because, of Donald Trump's antics, because of the Twitter stuff, there's a real hate for Donald Trump in the North. Canadians just do not take him seriously as a president. But one thing we need to take gravely seriously is his economic agenda. His tax cuts are going to, torque that economy. They're going to make it even more attractive to move businesses to the United States. And all of that's going to end up costing Canada. So, whereas Canadians have seen increases in taxes, for example, now with the Trudeau and John Horgan latest tax increases, the marginal tax rate for someone in the top 2% is now well over 50%. The opposite's happening in the States. So if, you have money and you want to create jobs, you want to do investment, you're going to go to the lower tax, lower regulation jurisdiction, and that's the United States. So I think in the coming months and years, we're going to realize just how powerful taxation is as a tool to spur business.
Well, of course, they complain that they can't find people for the high-tech industry in Vancouver. The biggest reason, I guess, would be housing prices. But certainly if you're going to get most of your income taxed away, why would you work in Vancouver instead of San Francisco?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, even the highest tax jurisdictions in the States, like California, aren't even close to Canada. So, we haven't talked even about carbon tax and all the other ways that we get nickeled and dimed in Canada on various things. So yeah, the high-tech industry is a perfect example. every jurisdiction in the world wants it. As long as you have a speedy internet connection, you can get it. Or, you can have businesses pop up there. The question is, do you have all the ancillary things that you need? And, we have high housing prices, high taxation, high cost of living. Certainly not attractive to, that quintessential thought of that tech startup, starting in the garage or, the family's basement and then kind of moving out and becoming the next big Amazon or Facebook. We just do not have that same kind of clout when it comes to, keeping overhead low for these businesses.
What do you feel the NDP has to do a better job?
Well, they have to smarten up and quit raising taxes. I am pleased that I've gone through with the MSP cut. That was one that I worked on for many years at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and was quite relieved when both the NDP and BC Liberals said that they would bring it in the last election campaign. But that's really the only relief anyone's gotten. That and the tolls, everything else has gone up. When you increase tax rates on corporations, when you increase tax rates on, I don't even want to say they're the wealthy people, because families making $150,000 a year and more, it sounds like a lot of money, but then you start doing the math and think, if you're two teachers who are married to each other, you're now in the income bracket where the NDP think you need to be, when the NDP think you're undertaxed. Like, that to me just seems really bizarre and strange. So, yeah, there's a lot of room there for the NDP to tighten the belts a little bit. They need to be a lot more honest with people and explain that they're not going to be able to do everything that they've promised simply because they promised the moon, and they just can't afford to do it.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break.
Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. A work program is planned for our Finland property that contains diamond-bearing kimberlite. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ADD, and the Frankfurt Exchange, symbol 82A1. Please visit our website at arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
I'm Brian Fowler, president of Blind Creek Resources Limited, listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, ticker symbol BCK. Blind Creek is focused in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. The company's key property is the Blend Project, one of the largest undeveloped lead-zinc-silver deposits in Western Canada, plus plans to advance the recently acquired, fully permitted historic engineered gold mine in the Atlan District of Northwestern BC. Check us out at blindcreekresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, taking a look at what's happening on the federal front, are you happy with Prime Minister Trudeau? Are you happy with the Finance Minister, Bill Morneau?
Yeah, well, the old movie Dumb and Dumber kind of come to mind, given some of the things that they've done this year. One of the big selling features of the federal Liberal government, when they were running to become government, was that they were going to be more ethical, more transparent, more open than previous governments, and I think we've seen that they've been an abysmal failure on that file. You have multiple infractions of the conflict of interest rules. You have the conflict of interest commissioner slapping them down. You have all of the weird stuff around Bill Morneau and his private holdings, not putting them into a blind trust. All that adds up, and it's pretty disappointing to hear people talk about ethics and integrity and transparency and then do the exact opposite when they get into power.
Well, with Mr. Morneau, the one thing I wonder about was the large sale of shares from both him and his father on their company 10 days before he changed the tax legislation. I haven't heard any proper response on that. He basically says, I dare you to say anything bad about me outside of the House of Commons, but that still hasn't answered any of the questions that have been raised.
No, this is why we encourage cabinet ministers to put things into blind trusts, right? Get rid of them. You won't know if they own it or not. Have someone else managing your affairs because we want you to make the right decision for the most amount of people. It's really disappointing because, I don't want to be cynical in this way about politics, but, talking to old timers who've followed politics all their lives, they'll often tell you that, every government is essentially the same, when it comes to ethical things, that, they all have the same issues. Certainly this kind of reinforces that. And one was hoping Mr. Trudeau, purporting to be from a new generation, a new kind of federal liberal. He certainly seems a lot like the old ones that have had many of the ethical issues.
Well, we can look back in BC, too, where Premier Gordon Campbell did not resign after being convicted of drunk driving in Hawaii, because in Hawaii it's not a criminal offense, it's a motor vehicle offense.
Yeah, we've come a long way from the days where even the hint, even the whiff of a rumor of an issue or an accusation caused people to step aside. I'm not sure that that's good for the public trust. Yeah, it's a tough one, and you want to be careful because you don't want anyone to get smeared in public life and have to resign because of a pointless smear. But at the same time, you have people breaking the conflict of interest law federally and being fined a few $100s, which just seems like a complete joke given the severity of the offense.
Well, it seems to me, why have ethics legislation if it has no teeth?
Well, exactly. I mean, being fined a few $100s, you get fined more for, texting and driving, and obviously texting and driving is bad. You get fined more for that, for that offense. You get fined more than that for not shoveling your walk in Vancouver as the snow comes down here, than you do for, multiple conflict of interest offenses. I just do not understand how that kind of legislation gets passed and put into place. And frankly, I think the politicians should be humiliated about it, embarrassed. Change it and up the penalties to something more substantial.
People pointed out on Facebook that the Prime Minister cried every time he made an official apology on behalf of the Canadian government. The one time he didn't cry was when he supposedly apologized for violating the ethics standards over taking that helicopter flight to a private island in the Bahamas.
Yeah, I would challenge anyone. If you think we're being too hard on Trudeau, read the report for yourself and see the kind of smarmy, really disgusting justifications he tries to give for his actions. Claiming that someone is a close family friend when you haven't seen them in 30 years. That's a bit much, right? Like, I've got a bunch of people on my Facebook friends. I wouldn't call them close personal friends, and I've certainly seen them more often than Prime Minister Trudeau has seen the Aga Khan. So, it really is kind of, just read the conflict of interest report. And if you don't come away from that shaking your head at some of the entitlement and silliness, then you're a true believer and nothing will convince you.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
I'm Bill McWilliam, president of Cascadero Copper, CCD on the TSX Venture Exchange. Cesium is one of the world's rarest metals with a growing industrial demand. Drilling is underway on our Tehran property in Argentina to prove up a cesium resource. Cascadero's patent-pending leach process has the potential to make Cascadero the lowest cost supplier of cesium in the world. Visit our website, cascadero.com, or phone us at 604-924-5504.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, going into the new year, what do you think both the provincial and federal governments have to do to make sure that independent business remains healthy and the biggest employer of Canadians?
Well, provincially, we need to see the NDP resist the temptation to start borrowing vast amounts of money. They need to keep the books in the black. They need to do everything they can to protect that credit rating, because when the credit rating slides, it means more money is needed. And they need to make sure that they're holding the line on taxes. This is going to be a big challenge when you have a government that's promising big steps forwards on affordability, school construction, home construction, things like that. So that's the challenge for them. It's easy to be in opposition. It's hard to govern. So now they'll have to balance all those priorities. Federally, it's a little bit similar. There's no plan to get Canada out of the red. Canada's economy has been going pretty well. Certainly continues to improve in other parts of the country. And yet, the Liberal plan is to run deficits for the next 30 or 40 years. We're talking decades of deficits with no end in sight. So, Prime Minister Trudeau and Mr. Morneau need to start rebuilding the public faith by actually showing that they care about the books, care about the economic future and prosperity of Canada, and start making the hard decisions to actually, get the books back to even. Being in the black is an important signal to the investment community. It's an important signal to the lenders. It's an important signal to everyday Canadians who, are expected to live within their means while, government seems to bloat and live far beyond them.
Well, something that infrastructure hasn't happened. I know the Prime Minister said during his election campaign that he would spend billions to build infrastructure that we need. I still don't see a subway or some kind of train down Broadway in Vancouver out to the university, which, by the way, is the busiest transit corridor in Canada. Even Toronto and Montreal don't have anything like it, and yet they still rely on buses that are packed to the roof. You can't get on because a lot of days all you get is the sorry full bus going by you. And we still don't have rapid transit out into the Fraser Valley. We still don't have rapid transit expansion in Surrey. Ottawa certainly could come along and drop a few of their dollars that were supposed to keep us out of a recession here.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about the plan is, you'll recall Trudeau came out and, billions are on their way for transit. But if you actually look at the fine print of the budgets, you would have to re-elect the Liberals twice before a lot of that money starts flowing. So it wasn't in year one of the plan, of their financial plan, or even year 5. Most of it was in year 8, 9, 10. You're talking about having to re-elect them, and then re-elect them again in order to get a bunch of that money out. This is, of course, a great shell game that governments love to play. They want to sound like they're doing a lot, and, are going to spend a lot of money, but they, push it out beyond, 3, 5, 10 years in order to, because they don't want to make the tough decisions in order to fund it. So that is a problem. The NDP also said that they would pick up 40% of that tab. That money has not been budgeted for yet, so that has to be in this February budget if it's going to happen. These are big question marks that, certainly we'll be looking at when we're in budget lockup later this year.
At least the sandwiches in the lockup are nice. They were when I was there. One thing I have to point out, too, with Prime Minister Harper was he would announce big programs, say $3 billion to help out war veterans, but that money was never spent. It was announced every year, and then when they go and look back, hundreds of millions were left on the shelf every time. So if you're going to announce it, use it.
Yeah, no, for sure. If it's in the budget, and you've built your books around it, then use it. Absolutely. There was an example. There was an employment program that they said they launched. They launched a bunch of advertising during the hockey playoffs, and then the program actually never existed. It never came to fruition. So, governments are really good at patting themselves on the back for announcing things. They're not so good at deliverology as the modern leadership gurus call it.
And I also used to scream at the TV. There were loads of ads telling us that the Harper government, and by the way, he insisted that it be called the Harper government, not the Canadian government, that they had doubled the penalties for polluting the oceans. The problem was they had laid off everybody that enforced those regulations.
Well, you see, if you're not counting it, then it doesn't count, right? If you're not measuring it, it doesn't count. No, you're right. No, look, no government is perfect, and that probably circles back to what those old-timers tell me. Every government has major flaws, and that's why people like you and I exist, Jim, to hold them to account and try to push them to do better for their constituents and for their taxpayers.
Well, they're also counting on people having poor memories. Unfortunately, you and I both have very long ones.
Yes, well, that's exactly it. And, one of my frustrations, something we need to be careful of, I see it a lot on Twitter, is, there's a lot of free passes given to the NDP government right now because, the Liberals did something similar worse in the past in someone's point of view. Whether or not that's true is almost beside the point. We need to start measuring the NDP government for what the NDP does or doesn't do, not constantly comparing them to the last guys. The old saying, in the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I would certainly like to have a two-eyed government, making sure that they're keeping an eye on both people and our bottom line and our finances.
Well, I think that's what drives us nuts about talking about American politics. Every time somebody points out something that Trump did that might not be good, he always says, yeah, but look at Hillary. Well, yeah. Hillary was never president, ever.
No, exactly. I mean, there was, I think, probably one person in the whole United States of America that Donald Trump could beat for president, and she happened to be running against him. It's problematic. We need to start really holding our elected officials to higher account. They literally govern billions and billions and billions of our dollars. They can make our lives incredibly miserable or incredibly prosperous. we need to make sure we're putting the right people in place and measuring them by their own yardsticks. The ones that they set out to announce, rather than just, hoping that they're slightly better than the last guys.
And I think the $5 million 3-week-long professional hockey rink on Parliament Hill might have been a big political mistake, because for that amount of money, you could have built some small town or city a great community center.
Yeah, you think of the town of Fernie mourning those 3 men who died in the ammonia leak in their arena, and the Calgary Flames Foundation coming through to help build their kids a new outdoor rink. You wonder what $5 million could have done in that situation. And I'm told, I noticed today in the news that that fancy outdoor arena on Parliament Hill is closed because it's too cold to actually operate it properly. So no hockey today, no skating today on Parliament Hill. It's just too cold for the people there.
Yeah, and it's a few blocks away from the world's longest rink, Rideau Canal.
Yeah, small detail there. Although I did see a picture of the Trudeaus out skating on some lake somewhere, so maybe they've discovered the Rideau Canal. And if they have, congratulations, it was outside your door all along.
Yeah, well, I hear that they're holidaying in the Rockies, and all of their holidays this year will be in Canada for some reason.
Yeah, I guess no long-lost friends. You only have so many long-lost friends who happen to be billionaires with private islands and private jets and private helicopters, I guess.
Richard Branson, where are you?
maybe they're running low on them.
Jordan, all the best for the season, and a happy new year.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Looking forward to talking to you again in 2018.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, Communications Director for the Independent Contractors and Business Association, their website, icba.ca. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Any questions for the show can be sent to info@housestreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Happy holidays.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.